talked to them a lot. They should have made a deal before we hit them with the nuclear, because that was a devastating hit.
The USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group is now in the Middle East, according to the U.S. government, and any aggression will be met with full strength.
The United States is rushing heavy bombers, refueling tankers, and fighter squadrons into position for what looks like a total conflict scenario. Iran has issued a direct warning that any strike will be treated as total war. We are looking at a moment where institutional survival is on the line. The stakes are the collapse of the regional order and a constitutional crisis at home regarding war powers. This is a dangerous situation. Let me explain exactly what is happening on the ground right now. The USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group has officially entered the Middle East region. The US government has made it clear that any aggression against this force will be met with full strength. This stance was reinforced by a billboard seen in the capital that read, "If you sow the wind, you will reap the whirlwind." That is the mindset right now. On January 18th, a dozen F-15E Strike Eagles departed from RAF Lakenheath. These are assigned to the 494th Fighter Squadron. They flew directly toward the Middle East. They were supported by KC-135 Stratotanker aerial refueling aircraft. This is a critical detail. Flight tracking data shows the Pentagon is rushing this additional air power into the region because tensions with Iran have reached their highest levels since last June. You will remember the devastating 12-day war last year that saw American B-2 bombers strike Iranian nuclear facilities. That was a historic event, and we are now seeing a buildup that exceeds even that period. US Central Command confirmed the presence of these new fighters. On January 20th, they posted an official photo on social media. It showed an F-15 Strike Eagle landing at a base in the Middle East. The command stated that the presence of these jets enhances combat readiness and promotes regional security. However, the timing and the scale of this deployment tell a completely different story. This is not about stability in the abstract sense. This is about preparation for immediate action. Open-source intelligence analysts have assessed that around 35 F-15 aircraft are now positioned at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in eastern Jordan. They are sitting alongside heavy cargo aircraft traffic. That is not a routine deployment. When you see that many strike fighters in one location, that is a strike package, positioning for major offensive operations. The United States has used these specific F-15Es during previous engagements. In April 2024, the F-15 was the primary tool used to blunt a large-scale Iranian drone and missile attack on Israel. Along with F-16, seconds and allies, they downed over 80 drones. The pilots and weapons system officers in the 494th Fighter Squadron are the same ones who deployed in recent days. They are combat experienced in this specific theater. These two-seat fighters carry a pilot and a weapons systems officer. They use AIM-9 Sidewinder and AIM-120 AMRAAM guided missiles. In previous engagements, they even dropped laser-guided bombs on drones. This shows the versatility of these aircraft. They can fight in the air and they can strike on the ground. But they are not alone. Analysts who follow flight tracking data have noticed dozens of US military cargo planes heading to the region. This activity is very similar to what we saw last year. The US is moving in air defense hardware, including Patriot missile systems. This is being done in anticipation of an Iranian counterattack. You have to think about what that means. Following the strikes on nuclear sites last year, Iran launched over a dozen missiles at Al Udeid Air Base. Tehran has shown it will absolutely retaliate against American bases if new attacks are ordered. The current buildup suggests Washington is preparing not just for strikes, but for the inevitable Iranian response. The F-15 seconds arrived in Jordan on Sunday. By Tuesday, Central Command publicly acknowledged the movement. We also know that Britain has sent fighter jets. The British Ministry of Defence confirmed that Typhoon aircraft have been deployed to Qatar. This is part of a coordinated defensive preparation. Last week, there were reports of European military aircraft moving into the region to coordinate with American forces. But here is the twist that nobody saw coming. Flight tracking services documented dozens of US Air Force aircraft departing from bases in the US and the UK, heading east. The aircraft involved include KC-135 Stratotankers and KC-46A Pegasus tankers. We also see C-17 Globemaster III and C-5M Galaxy transporters. These are the heavy lifters used to move personnel equipment and special units. Flight tracking applications documented the refueling aircraft flying eastward over the Atlantic Ocean. The military news site, The War Zone, reported that C-17 transport aircraft were spotted en route to the region. This mirrors Operation Midnight Hammer from last June. During that operation, dozens of refueling aircraft took part. The tankers enabled B-2 bombers to fly from Missouri to Iran and back. That is a round trip of roughly 18,000 kilometers. They also refueled the fighter jets escorting them. The current surge of tankers suggests a similar large-scale operation is imminent. Senior US officials have told the Wall Street Journal that additional air defense systems, including Patriot and THAAD batteries, are being deployed. The arrival of additional forces gives the US more offensive options. Israel has conveyed serious concerns to Washington. They are worried about their defensive capabilities should Iran attack again. Israel used a significant portion of its interceptor stockpile during the war in June. This means Israel needs American air defense systems to shield Israeli territory from the massive retaliation that will follow any new strikes. In the Persian Gulf itself, the naval picture is shifting. 2 US destroyers with precision strike and air defense capabilities are operating there. They are joined by 3 mine countermeasure ships. This is a critical detail that often gets overlooked. These ships are not there by accident. They are there because the US command believes Iran might try to close the Strait of Hormuz. They are preparing for Iran to mine the strait and choke off global oil supplies. The US operates an extensive network of bases. Al Udeid in Qatar hosts US Central Command. The 5th Fleet is in Bahrain. Al Dhafra in the United Arab Emirates hosts advanced fighter aircraft. There are bases in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Turkey. All of these could become targets. An Iranian official said last week that Tehran had made it clear to countries in the region that hosting American strike aircraft would make them legitimate targets. Then the situation took a more dangerous turn. A senior Iranian official warned that Tehran would view any US strike as total war. Speaking anonymously, the official said they would treat any attack, whether limited or surgical, as a total war. They promised to respond in the harshest possible way. This is a fundamental shift in messaging. Tehran is explicitly rejecting the concept of a limited skirmish. They are saying that any American military action will trigger a maximum response across the entire region. The USS Abraham Lincoln brings renewed potential for airstrikes. The carrier hosts F-35 Lightning II stealth fighters and FA-18 Super Hornets. The accompanying destroyers carry hundreds of missiles, including Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. These can strike targets deep inside Iran from safety in the Indian Ocean. The F-35 seconds have advanced sensors and can evade radar. They were used to suppress Iranian air defenses during Operation Midnight Hammer. Israel has also used its own version of the jet to degrade Iranian capabilities. When you combine the F-15Es, the F-35 seconds, the Super Hornets, and the tankers, you have an overwhelming strike package. The F-15 seconds provide heavy firepower. The F-35 seconds penetrate defenses. The tankers allow them to reach anywhere. But the real shock came when intelligence analysts looked at the totality of the force. This is not just a strike package, this is regime change capability. Sources say Trump has asked for plans that would lead to the rapid collapse of the Iranian regime. The administration's ultimate course is undecided, but the forces arriving give the US options far beyond a simple punitive strike. You have a full carrier air wing crews, missile destroyers, heavy transport, and minesweepers. This is the force structure you assemble when you are preparing to destroy a government. Open source intelligence reports a major redeployment of assets. The scale and speed of this deployment speaks volumes. It mirrors the movement seen before the nuclear strikes last June, but it is larger. It involves more aircraft, more bases, and more allies. Iranian sources report heightened readiness of their air defense systems. Iran knows what is coming. The only question is when the order will be given. Now we have to look at the consequences. The short-term outlook for the next 72 to 96 hours is extremely volatile. The immediate consequence of this buildup is a hair-trigger environment. With Iranian defenses on highest alert and US assets pushing into the zone, the risk of an accidental engagement is sky-high. A single miscalculation by a radar operator or a pilot could spark the conflict before any political order is given. We can expect financial markets to react violently as this news spreads. Oil prices will likely spike as traders price in the threat to the Strait of Hormuz. In the short term, we will likely see a diplomatic frenzy. European and regional intermediaries will try to pass messages between Washington and Tehran to avoid the worst-case scenario. However, the military logic is already taking over. Once you position this much hardware, it becomes very expensive and politically difficult to simply pack it up and go home without achieving some objective. Looking at the longer term, if strikes occur, the consequences will be generational. Iran has made it clear they will target energy infrastructure and US bases. This means the war will not be contained to Iran's borders. We could see missile impacts in Dubai, Doha, or Tel Aviv. The global economy would face a supply shock, unlike anything in recent memory. The rapid collapse of a regime sounds like a clean solution, but history tells us it creates a power vacuum. A collapsed Iran could lead to years of civil strife and instability that spills over into Iraq and Afghanistan. If the US strikes are successful in degrading the regime without a full invasion, the region will still be fundamentally changed. Iran will likely accelerate any remaining clandestine programs it has. The proxy war across the Middle East will intensify. There is no returning to the status quo that existed before this buildup. On the other hand, if this is a massive bluff designed to force concessions, it carries its own risks. If the US builds up this force and then does nothing, the credibility of American military threats will be diminished. Iran will view it as a victory of their total war deterrence strategy. The presence of the mine countermeasure ships is the most telling predictor of the future. The US Navy expects a fight for the waterways. This suggests a long, drawn-out maritime conflict is part of the calculation. This is not just about air superiority, it is about keeping the arteries of the global economy open while a war rages. The US is positioning for a decisive event. Whether that event is a diplomatic capitulation by Tehran or a kinetic war is the only unknown variable. But the pieces are on the board. The F-15 seconds are on the tarmac. The destroyers are in the water. The logic of escalation is moving forward without pause. The next few days will determine the history of the Middle East for the next decade.